and also e4. He plays actually h3, which is not the best. Apparently rook f2 is better, and now I get a big advantage. I try and exploit this knight on a4. I played the move b5, which reminds me of some Nakamura move in the King's Engine I saw recently against Belyavsky. He played b5, and there was some tactics to that. So here the knight is even more vulnerable now. So after c takes b, I just played rook takes e4, and I'm forking queen and rook. Apparently best is still just to take on f3 and let the knight go, but he played a disastrous move which just allowed queen g3 check here. So queen g3, and it's all over, I'm just mating him. This is what happened, so check, and he resigns here. Because if king f1, there's queen g1 mate. If king e3, check, and now there's two different ways to mate. Well, there's a mating one with queen g1, there's a mating two with rook e1. So that was that. Let's have a quick overview and summary. So a Leningrad Dutch Gambit variation I'm getting to like, but I misplayed it. I didn't really know the theory that well. So knight h5, f5. Apparently, you're supposed to play knight f4 immediately. So I think the reason is otherwise white will play queen f3, and then you can't get in knight f4 with the idea of bishop e5 if white's going to take on f4, so it's not going to be that pleasant. So I played this. It's a novelty, a bad novelty, but it wasn't exploited properly. So he just took on g6, and I've got some dark square compensation anyway. And in this continuation, it seems I had sufficient counterplay, especially for the time limit involved, which is like 30 moves in an hour and a quarter, and then 15 for the rest of the game. It's a bit of a fast time control, this North Circular. So the amount of counterplay sort of is dangerous at this speed limit. So yeah, I was pleased to. I thought f3 was really controversial at the time, but it's when these possibilities started occurring to me that I thought, yeah, I can get away with f3 idea. I thought maybe it could be rounded up, before with like things like queen e3 and rook f2, but then I thought, well, actually bishop f8, and it's still dangerous for white. I was looking at weird stuff like knight d5, but it doesn't quite work. I think I just take, if rook takes, so what's Rybka saying? Queen takes b2 apparently is the best here. So if check, there's bishop g7, so that's nothing for white. So anyway, in the game, yeah, he just collapsed with h3. So if rook f2, then apparently takes and queen e4 is okay for black. So yeah, he just collapsed here, and that was that. Cool. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much. Actually, since the video isn't much over 11 minutes, I thought I'd quickly show you also the previous British Championship game in August. So it was still a Leningrad Dutch variation, so you're getting two for the price of one in this system. So if you want the system against knight f3, maybe this is interesting for you. So I played it here against de Coverley, who was about 21, 27 a bit, well, sort of the same rating at the time. So I played still this knight e5 and this f4, this Gambit. And in this game varied though, because he took on e5, and now he played knight e2, so he's immediately going to get in f4. And I had played actually queen d6 here, and we go into a kind of well, very quickly into a sort of endgame actually. So I take on f4, because he sacrificed back basically, and he plays queen f3. But I seized the opportunity just to take and play e5, so I thought this was okay. Then he plays c5, and it's a bit of an end game grind. He goes a bit crazy with c6. he lets me get the upper hand in this ending. So I'll show you that briefly. I won't comment too much. Basically, I handled his queenside pawns a bit better than the recent game, because I took on c6. So he's got a dangerous a pawn potentially. Notice, my king's over here. So this might have biased my recent reasoning to get the king, to help the queen side, etc. It's a completely different position to that endgame I've had, 2 games ago. But there was a very interesting novel idea coming up of basically temporarily encouraging him to trap his own rook. So his rook's trapped, and it gives me an extra tempo now to get my pawn majority working over here. So I start pushing my pawn majority with his rook trapped. And then I finally release his rook in effect, but I still have to work out exactly what I'm going to do with, because otherwise rook b7 and a7 is going to be really dangerous. And I worked it out finally. I think I spent ages over this to play check. And now g3, with the idea that this h pawn is now accelerated with the rook eyeing the destination square. I think there's 1 tempo in it from his pawn queening, so I'm a bit lucky now. h3. Well, I mean, it was heavily calculated. So he desperately sacks the exchange, but I'm stopping his pawn now and just the exchange up, basically. And the rest is easy. Actually, he resigned here. So in this Leningrad Dutch Gambit game, he'd immediately, basically, how is this different? He took on e5, so that's how it's different. But it's still not that bad for black if black's got queen d6, sort of holding up f4, and even this ending wasn't, that bad. So I think it might be a start of a playable system here. If you want to try it in your own games. So this was the British Championship game earlier in the year, which overall I got some FIDE points, despite having some very, very strong opponents. I did alright overall to get back up to 2150 FIDE. Yeah, so comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much. I'll split it into 2 videos this time.